Football made simple. Become great at your craft by finding ways to make it simple for those around you. This is the Coaching 101 podcast hosted by Find a Way Productions with your co-host Daniel Chamberlain and Kenny Simpson. What's up, coaches? This is the Coaching 101 podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain. That is Kenny Simpson. Coach, it's been a little bit, man.
Yeah, feels like it's been forever. You know, we've got installs in 3 different states, and feel like I'm a world traveler with Coach Gould, and I got to take my defensive coordinator to one, and so that's been a lot of fun. And then between that, of course, I have my own team to run. So you're trying to give the best you can wherever. So I think this is our first free night that we both have had probably in 2-3 weeks, I feel like.
Yeah, I kind of thought I would be able to get home and do this yesterday, but there was no way. Like, I was home, but you weren't. But even then, like, tell you the worst things. I'm going to be sweating by the end of this. Our air conditioner went out last Tuesday. I ran off to the Army on Monday for a week. My wife called me and she said, in perfect Army fashion, as you vanished off to go do your thing and live in the heat, we have to too. So they're actually over at the in-laws right now, just soaking up some AC. And I was like, I got to go home and do this recording. But the computer travels okay, but not well enough. So yeah, it is what it is, man. We're making
you better have a heat wave in the south, so you better get ready.
Well, and I'm hoping tomorrow morning they're going to come fix it. We have been very, very lucky with, it was 90 today, but we've had a lot of rainy days. Sunday was one of those. So the good Lord looked after me on Father's Day and said I could actually stay at my own house, which was good business. Yeah.
I remember we were in about a week and a half ago, we were up in Illinois, and I was out there in a hoodie. It was like perfect weather for early June. And even in Arkansas, we kind of had some cooler days, but you always pay for those. You either pay for them later or you pay for them earlier, but one way or another, it's going to be hot.
That's right. You don't know if you'd rather acclimate or just get some nice days, right? So,
and we got a big 707 tomorrow, so I'll be out there till 5 p.m. and just cooking on that turf, I'm sure, all day long.
Oof, you enjoy that. I'll tell you what, man, let's jump into the quote of the week. We'll knock out our ads and we'll move into tonight's talk.
Yeah, quote of the week. Again, this is coming from Team Themes Volume 5. So should be, I hope, coming out at the end of this summer. Trying to get that knocked out between installs and everything else. But Team Themes Volume 1 through 4 are over on my website over at fbcoachsimpson.com. If you're interested in those, they have all these different quotes, video clips, all that stuff. So the quote for this episode is about being composed. We talk a lot with our kids about being composed. And I think it's kind of a debatable quote. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, Daniel, and everybody else's thoughts. So it says the ability to remain calm and composed is a skill that can be developed. I would say I probably would lean that, like anything, I think some people are more inherently composed than others, but obviously we can all improve that area. What do you think?
This goes back to there used to be a quote. And I essentially was talking about, like, some people are just easygoing because they're weak, right? Like, if you don't have the ability to actually do damage, then being composed it's not really a skill for you. That's like life-saving for you. So I almost want to go there with it. Like, if you don't have the ability to go into battle and stop whatever force it is that's causing this lack of composure, then you're not really being that composed in the end. But I do think people can practice it. We talk about it with a emotional intelligence, right? That's how we speak about it in the Army all the time. You have to have emotional intelligence and be aware that what is it? The calmest head, there's some super quote about that too, but calmest head prevails or something. So
we talk a lot with our kids. Like, if you want to go from bad to good, you got to have a fire and an intensity. If you want to go from good to great, you got to have composure and know how to turn that. Like, if you just hustle, you're probably going to be pretty decent. Like, if you'll just hustle, just play harder than everybody else, you'll be pretty good. But if you want to go from good to great, you have to do that, and you have to actually go the right direction all the time. which I think is where composure, emotional intelligence, understanding of the game, those things come into it. And I think that's kind of where this quote is going towards is, you want to make your kid be your team be not like terrible, just get them to play hard. Get them to play hard. And then if you want to go from being okay, pretty good, to great or much better, now we've got to be composed and able to give 100% effort in the correct direction all the time.
That's an excellent point. Sweet. Appreciate that. Well, Coach, why don't you share some ways we can share some other ways coaches can make things simple for their staff and their athletes? Boy, that's getting harder and harder
It's
every
been
time.
a minute, Coach. Yep.
All right, you guys are listening live. Obviously, we're going to go back and edit in some ads here. We're just going to jump right back in here. All right, appreciate that, Coach. Wonderful. If you guys aren't listening to those ads, they're fresh. We got a lot of fresh ads going on this year or this season. Ace Sports is still kind of our keynote speaker, right? We're always going to preach the gospel of Ace Sports. They're doing a wonderful thing. Call Mark Bridges or emailing mark.bridges@acesports.com. But jump over to Team Builder Practice. I think for the rest of the month, so we still got about 2 weeks here. If you're watching live, if you're listening, I think this comes out tomorrow. I got to get it edited up and sent out because we're out of episodes. But I think you have the rest of the month to get the first 30 days free for Team Builder Practice. It's going to be a great thing for you. I like to be able to just build drill books. Winning Edge Performance Analytics, 20% off if you sign up with the code 20 off coaching 101. The numbers there are all actual numbers, 20 off coaching 101. It's going to get you 20% off your first year. All your analytics in game, man. It's a super neat program. Coaches can really do a lot of good stuff there. And you're pre-tagging your film. You just transfer it over to Huddle and you don't have to spend all night Friday night or all morning Saturday tagging film. It's done for you. You've already done all the tagging for your offense, for your defense, whatever. You're cutting a lot of time out there. The last one is Capital Varsity Sports, one-stop shop for all your sports equipment needs. If you're a guy that's sending out Rydell's and Schuts and Viscus or whatever those other, I don't know, all those where Rydell's where it's at, right? I don't know. Maybe Rydell sponsors. Anyway, if you're trying to get them all done at a whole bunch of different shops, this is going to be Mike Holes. He's going to give you a way to kind of get it all done together. So look up Mike Holes. I will put his information in the comments below because I didn't write it down for tonight. Anyway, Mike Holes at Capital Varsity Sports. That's with an O, CAPITOL, Varsity Sports. Part one, Coach. We're talking how to be a great assistant coach. And this comes from, I have been lucky enough, I think. I still truly do think I'm lucky enough to be an assistant coach for all of my years. I keep applying for head coaching jobs and interviewing, but I know every year when I watch you and the people around here that y'all got to put up with a lot of stuff that I don't have to put up with. A good friend of mine that does another podcast with me, he started as a head coach last year, and at 1 year he's like, nope. That ain't for me, right? Like there's just a lot to it. I hear a lot of people now saying if you like coaching football, don't go to college because it's all recruiting, right? 365 days a year, you're recruiting somebody. It's less coaching, more recruiting. It kind of feels like the same thing with high school ball. If you really love being in depth with your position group, don't go be a head coach because it's gotten so big that you really need to give away all those coordinating duties. You need to let someone else call the plays. You just need to be kind of a general manager. So I've been pretty lucky to be an assistant coach all my years and like to think I've been a pretty good one for some guys. But tonight I'm going to put some of the ways I've been doing it. Coach, I know you've had, lots of really good coaches under you, and we're going to talk some of those ways that those guys are just great assistant coaches from both perspectives of trying to be one and you with trying to exist with some. So so let's do part one here. What are some ways that we can, bloom where you're planted or be where your feet are, whatever the motto is in your area about just quit trying to chase jobs. How do we do that and do it well?
Yeah, I think in my mind, I kind of just look at this as, what am I looking for in a good assistant coach? And you mentioned it before I get into this, I've been blessed with some really good assistant coaches. And then I've been blessed with some not as good ones. We're not going to talk about those ones tonight. We're going to talk about the really good ones. And I've had a lot of them. Like I've been very, very blessed to have a lot of good assistant coaches. I want to give a real quick caveat here for the head coaches. So if you're a head coach, you're listening to this, most assistants want to support you. sometimes the head coach, you're not really giving them the avenue to do that. So I know we're not talking about that tonight. We could probably do a whole other podcast on that. We're talking about the assistant coaches. So I do want to share that sometimes you can be a really good assistant head coach, and man, the guy you're working for just he's struggling. Let's just put it that way. And I've been that guy. Like, I can say that because I have been that guy where I didn't allow my assistants to do what we're talking about, bloom where they're planted, to be a great assistant coach, because I've kind of handcuffed them.
Right.
So we're going to throw those out the window. And we're just going to talk about the assistants tonight. So we're going to pick on the assistants and not Coach Simpson. I pick on myself enough. So there's my caveat. I do also want to say, one of the things that I kind of consider a badge of honor is now I've had, I think it's 5 or 6 former assistants that have gone on to be a head coach. Just had one this past year. It was my OC. He's now a head coach. I have several others down throughout the years I've coached who have gone on to do, really good things. And I think that's always really, really cool. And so, and that's probably the dream of a lot of assistant head coaches. So you guys that are in there, that's kind of what this is talking to. So the first thing I would say is put the time in. I understand that that's kind of that can be different, but I think there is definitely a minimum threshold of time you need to put in to be successful. Like, I don't think there's like a way you can say, I can do this job and not watch film. I can do this job and not show up to meetings. I can do this job and not be prepared for what's coming. I think there can also be an unhealthy balance of putting too much time in, but most of the assistants I've seen that have struggled have not been guys that have put too much time in. Like, those guys tend to be pretty good assistants. Put in the time, understand what's expected. To me, specifically in the scheme area, most of the time, your head coach, Daniel mentioned at the start of the episode, has 1,000 things on his mind. You are fortunate right now that scheme or adjustments with your players or whatever that is, you've got more time than he does. Like, you have more time that you can do that stuff than he can. So nothing drives a head coach more nuts than you get on, quick cut or huddle or whatever you use, and you see, our D-line coach has watched 20 minutes of film this week, or our offensive line coach wasn't prepared for practice. So you kind of have to figure out, are you putting in the time in film and preparation so that your players are prepared? I think that's a big thing that you can do. Anyone can do that. A lot of times, assistant coaches that I've seen that have struggled, they want to show up to practice, be spoon-fed what's going to happen, and then have fun on Friday nights and be seen by people. You want to show that you are ready for more. Show the back end, the preparation end. I'm ready to go. Like, I've put in my time. I know what drills I'm going to run. I know what the point of the drill is. I know how we need to improve. Coach, I watched our team camp film, and here's kind of what I think. You're going to get a lot more from me than the guy I know didn't watch any film, and he just wants to make a suggestion. That's just kind of how it will be. So put in the time. Second thing I would say is look for ways to help off of the field. Obviously, run these through the proper channel, which is head coach or coordinator, depending on what your job is. But what are some things you can do off of the field? Maybe that's, hey, coach, you want me to go organize the cloth room? Hey, coach, you want me to go help with the training room? Hey, coach, why don't I help you get set up for this big 7-on-7 you got going on? Hey, coach, what about if I go help do this for your guys? Hey, coach, what about if we ran a Remind 101? I'll do it for you. Like, what are some of those things that you can do to take off of his plate that are off of the field that will help the program? What are some of those things you can do? Again, run them through the right channel, but look for areas that can be improved. If the field house is a mess, don't complain about it. Hey, coach, do you mind if I do this? I think I can help. He's probably going to say yes. Almost all the time he's going to say yes if it's something that can be done correctly. Now, once you do it, you better do really well with it. Once you've taken it off his plate, prove, hey, I can do this well. Like, I'm good at what you're asking me to do. I'd say speak up in meetings. If meetings are held, I don't need to hear problems in meetings. Like, I got enough. I can go and tell you all the problems. I need solutions in a meeting. So for every problem you want to bring up, offer me a solution. Like, don't just come to a meeting and say, hey, our grades are awful. Okay, no crap, dude. Like, yeah, I got it. Thanks. That doesn't help me any. How about, hey, coach, what if I did this grade check stuff for you? Or what if I lined up the math teacher to come in here? What if I offer potential solutions? That's going to get you a lot of leeway from the coach to go, hey, this guy's not just trying to bring up problems and complain. He's trying to help. He's trying to give solutions to us. Now, caveat to that is you can't get offended if he doesn't take all of your suggestions. Like I've had that before too, where a guy had some great suggestions. We took some we didn't for whatever reason, and get your feelings hurt.
Yep.
Like, that's you can't do that. Like you're offering a solution to help the coach. He doesn't have to take it, but you're offering it. You're showing, hey, I'm trying here. Here's something I think that can help us. I think you need to understand that in your current role, you do have, Daniel mentioned it, you do have a chance to impact specific individual players more than a head coach ever will. So be great at that. Like recognize you can make an impact on whether you're a position coach and your 5 or 10 kids, or you're a coordinator and your 20 or 30 kids, or whatever, that special teams coach and your whatever that is, you can impact those kids way more than the head coach can. Like that's just, you spend more time with them. You can have a direct relationship with them. So don't take that for granted. Like a lot of times we give our kids these little media guide questionnaires and they fill them out. How many times do you think Coach Simpson was somebody's favorite coach out of 60 kids? I'm going to bet it's under 5. I'm going to bet it's under 5. My son definitely didn't put me down. So maybe I'll get, 5 other kids. But it's generally going to be their position coach. Like, who's your favorite coach? This coach. Why? Because you spend time with them. So understand that's a big role, and that needs to be done. You will impact a ton of kids in your role more than a head coach will. I promise you it's more. Look for things to take off the head coach's plate. I think, Daniel, you're probably going to hit more on this, so I'll kind of be quiet in this area, but look for things that you can do to take things off of his plate and do a good job in that world. That's kind of the main thing.
Yeah, that's when you start trying to take things off a head coach's plate. What I found early in my career is that coaches were reluctant to delegate those things, especially when I was a lot newer. And then when I got under Bo Collins and literally had to tell him, like, look, I know you have too much. Give me stuff to do. And I finally got him to just kind of let it go. Like, fine, take this and run with it. Whatever. I mean, like I've said it a few times on different podcasts, but like I wrote the newspaper articles because the ones that we were getting written were so slanted against us that we had to change the narrative around Stillwell High School. And so I wrote the articles and turned them in every week, right? I did all the stats so that no one had to worry about, fudging numbers or messing things up. Where there's a real big thing last year about a coach was inflating numbers by like 3-fold, a lot of numbers, and got maybe his kid some all-state recognition that a kid that deserved it didn't get, right? Like, so integrity is a big part of that, but I just showed him, like, look, I will do this. I will be fair. I'll have integrity. You don't have to worry about all this stuff, which I know is a coach can't overlook that, right? Because you are the person in charge of the whole program as a head coach. Everything that happens in your program looks good or bad on you. So if I go out there and mess a bunch of stuff up, that's what head coaches are worried about, right? Is that backlash. So just showing that I had the ability to do things without screwing up. Kind of like you said, once it's mine, now I'm going to do a really, really, really good job of it because I, 1, want to keep it, and 2, I probably want more stuff. But 3, someday I need a guy just like that for me. I need someone to take that off my shoulders and know I can trust him. You were mentioned earlier being solution oriented. Don't be a complainer. That's a real big in the military with us too, is like, I like to bring 3 courses of action to solve every problem. So I'm going to bring you a problem because you may not have seen it, but that's not where I'm done talking. I'm done talking after I've told you the 3 ways I can possibly solve it. What do you want to do? You don't have to think about anything else except just pick A, B, or C. And I've found that to be very, very successful with dealing with commanders of units, dealing with head coaches of football teams. Another big one is just understand that you are the head coach of your position group. Organizing your practice for your group, or determining which kids are playing time or starters or the bench riders or whatever it is, right? That needs to be your job. If you're super young at this, you may not get all of that freedom quite yet. Keep like you said earlier, Kenny, keep putting that time in, Keep showing you know what you're talking about. And coach is eventually going to turn that over to you, because I assure you, every coordinator in the world, man, my hair is so bad right now. I'm sorry, guys. I got out of the swim pool. Like I said, I'm dying. I know I got to put the hat back on. Every coordinator in the world wants assistant coaches that can fill out the practice schedule for him. Hey, I have given you all this indie time. I don't want to go tell you what drills to run. We talked about the problems on Sunday. I want you to solve the problems all week with your drills. I shouldn't have to go too much in depth beyond that. So if you can do that, people are going to love you. That would be a great assistant coach. In all of the things we've said so far, I think a big piece of this is staying aligned with the program vision. Just make sure you don't overstep any boundaries. Talk with the head coach. Be upfront. Hey, I'm really good at this stuff. Mine's been social media the last few years, creating graphics, putting stuff out there. What do you want as a coach? What do you want me to put out there on social media? Because I don't want to have too many players of the week, or maybe we're highlighting one company, one sponsor, one whatever too much, not the rest. So I just got to make sure the head coach is aware when they go before the board or the superintendent or the principal, they can answer these questions. Maybe just a disgruntled parent, they can say, hey, yes, that was my idea, or that was my doing. Own something. I think as a great assistant coach, one way to just grow where you are is own something. Be the red zone guy. Hey, coach, I've spent all of my offseason studying red zone offense or red zone defense, or what's trending right now that we're likely to see from these coordinators. What do these guys do really well in the red zone? Be the stats guy, right? I kind of talked about earlier, making sure the stats are always accurate. We're giving kids exactly what they did. We're not inflating numbers. We're not stealing numbers. No bias, just going out and getting exact stats. So at the end of the year, when I say, hey, we ran for 2,800 yards this season, that's legitimate. And we don't have to go back and check a whole bunch of numbers. Special teams guy, people always need a special teams coordinator. And they usually end up giving it to just like a guy on staff because it's just the extra guy. So go out and get really good at that stuff. Be that guy, and you know how to teach the one that's going to be your special teams coordinator sometime. The last one here, and a lot of you guys have seen me over with Mike D, the referee. Mike's probably watching tonight even. But, Mike is an official up in New Jersey, and we have been talking all the rules. We're going through the rule book, one YouTube video at a time right now. I cannot tell you how many times last year being the rules guy helped us at Bristow. Whether it was just as simple as when can we move the ball to the hash that we want. When, we all want this to happen. We want to catch the old fair kick, place kick, right? Like you do a fair catch and now we get a free kick after it. Everybody wants that to be the way that you win a cool game or something. But just knowing how that works is great. Knowing rules with numbers, who can be on the line and off the line. There's so many fun things to do, especially in special teams, if you just understand the rules. And they're so archaic and crazily written. A lot of guys don't have that. So go be the rules guy for your team. Last piece here is always look to be competent and confident. Both of those are going to come with practice and study time and just learning ball. Your offseason, man, especially if you're just an assistant, you really have to just dig into like football. You've got to go out there and put that time in, because during the season, you don't have time to go learn ball. You got to be teaching ball. And so make sure your offseason that you're taking care of that. Kids will not follow a coach that doesn't have competency nor confidence. If you go out there and you just look lost, they're going to be looking for the other coach. They're going to go find a coordinator to solve their problems. So it's a lot like the military. We follow the be, no, do model. If you haven't ever heard of that before, go Google it. U.S. Army or U.S. military be, no, do leadership model, and just read through all the attributes and competencies of a leader. You should be trying to check those off these boxes as an assistant coach as well. Let's jump on to part 2 here, Coach. We'll talk about staying patient. So if you are doing all this, and I found myself here a few times, I go out and I tackle and I learn. I'm learning 6 or 7 different schemes. I can fit in anywhere. Consider myself a chameleon in football. Now it's that staying patient point, right? Now I know the ball. I see the guys around me may have more knowledge in some places, but not all of them. How do we stay patient where we are? But also we want to ensure the head coach knows that we can kind of knock out whatever's asked of us.
Yeah, I think that's the goal of most assistant coaches. There are a couple of different flavors of assistants. There are guys that they know that's what they want to do, and they're really comfortable in that. They're going to be really good at that, but they don't really desire to move up, and there's nothing wrong with that. Then there are guys like Daniel's kind of mentioning that you're an assistant coach now, but you're trying to work up. Maybe that's to go from assistant to coordinator or coordinator to head coach, whatever that jump, or junior high to senior high, whatever that jump is to you, you're trying to work your way up. And that's kind of how I'm reading this question, Daniel. But
Yeah.
the assumption there would be you think you're ready to move up, but it hasn't happened yet. So how do you continue working in the job you're in, not get frustrated and bitter at where you're kind of like the bloom where you are, but here's kind of the more negative end of it. My big thing is you always want to voice your opinion to the coach. You always want to make sure he's aware of kind of what your goals are. But most of the time, once they're aware of that, there's potential there for something to happen. Now, here's the case. Here's where it can get tough. You think you're ready to move up, a job is open that you think you're ready to move into, and he picks somebody else. Like that's where it can kind of get tough. So there are only a couple options in this world that are the correct options. One, you can look to move somewhere else where you might be able to move up and be seen differently. Nothing wrong with that option. Two, you stay on the staff you're on and you try to prove your worth for the next one. What is not an option, or should never be an option, is to stay on the staff you're on and be bitter and shut down. Like that's what we don't want. So you get in that world, is continuing to be positive with what you're going on, voice your opinions, like we just talked about in question number one, find areas you can show what you can do, and then have conversations with the coach, like honest conversation with the coach. I think the big one is this one. You've got to be super good at the responsibilities you are given. Like if I'm giving you responsibility to coach the D-line or to coach the receivers or to coach the whatever, it won't take long for me as a head coach to know which groups do I have that are the best coached. Like not talent, you can't really control that, but which groups know what they're doing, understand what our scheme looks like, and are showing constant improvement. That's the mark for you as a coach. I talk to my coaches a lot about if we have conflict, what are we doing? Well, coach, I told him. Well, you told him isn't you coached him. Like if you've coached this kid, he's at least going to know what he's supposed to do. Sometimes kids can't physically do things. I get it. You got a 300-pound, nose tackle. He's not probably going to run a dude down on the sideline, but he should know that we stay flat down the line. He should know where A gap is. He should be able to get properly aligned. Those are what I'm looking for as, are you doing a great job with your group? Is your group fitting the scheme? They're showing up on time. They're excited to be there. They're getting better, and they're fundamentally sound. So, you want your group, Daniel kind of said the head coach of your position group. That's what it is. And you are the responsibility of whatever you're coaching. If you do a good job, I can promise you'll get more added to your plate. Like we've got several coaches on our staff that they do a really good job in the jobs they're given. And so guess what? When we have more that needs to be done, those are the guys that I go to with more stuff to do. Now, I try to spread the love, and I try to make sure it fits what that person's end goal is. Like you want to be a head coach, I'll give you some more responsibility. But I can promise you can see it in everything, like in church, work, business, school, where they say 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people. You got to be in that 20% of the people. Like you got to be in that group. You can't be the one that doesn't do extra work. You can't be the guy that's too good for laundry or too good for helping paint or too good for cleaning up after the weight room or too good for name it. Whatever it is, if you're too good for it, you're not ready. You're not ready. That's the kind of guys that I'm looking for. I'd also say share your hopes. Tell the coach what you want. Say, Coach, I want to be a vital part of this program. Eventually I want to be a head coach if that's your goal. But while I'm here, I want to be a guy who can help you in the best way I can. You got to prove it. I mean, saying things is one thing, but I do think you do need to verbally let them know that. Like otherwise, you're just going to get frustrated on hoping he'll notice things. I think it's okay to share. I would like to have a chance if it comes open to be a coordinator. I'd like to have a chance if it comes open to coach this spot or to be a varsity coach or whatever that might be. It's okay to share that. You got to work and earn it, but it's okay to share that. The last thing I'll put on here too is this one. We tell our guys, we had a coach that was with me for a while back, Derek Smith. A lot of y'all might know him from Twitter. One of my favorite guys. He said, man, because he had come from one school to our school and they were rivals. Like we had taken him, he was at a rival school. He came to our school. So, of course, they're just teasing him because just what you do in a coaching office. And he said, hey, wherever we are, we're going to drink the Kool-Aid. And I kind of was like, man, that's a great mindset. Is wherever you are, if you're at a school, they wear red, I'm going to wear red every day. I'm going to go to Walmart, buy some red shirts. I'm going to get whatever coach gives me, and I'm going to be all in on this team. If I'm a Falcon, my kids are going to be wearing Falcon shirts. I'm going to be wearing Falcon. Everybody's in. We're all in. That's just, you have to be that way wherever you are. And obviously when you move, then you drink the Kool-Aid over there. And when you move, you drink the Kool-Aid over there. And I think that's kind of the goal of most coaches. That's what I want for my assistants. Like, I don't want to hear your war stories of how great it was somewhere else. I really don't. I don't really want to hear how it was over there or there or there or where I hope to go. I want you all in the moment right now because my job's on the line. And that's kind of what you have to be as an assistant. You have future aspirations. You might have been somewhere different. While I'm here, I'm whatever the mascot is 100%. And I think that's important for you to make sure that the coach understands that.
It's awesome points, man. Especially drinking the Kool-Aid. That is a very Derek Smith thing to say. So, what's up, Coach Smith? Hope you're watching on Twitter tonight. Want to talk just this little piece here, and my history is a little different, Coach. You talked about some ways to move up, and it's kind of like, get some knowledge and move over here and take a job or stay where you are. And I did the most random thing ever, and it was because of some circumstances. I've not always been successful at my stops. And so I just found myself traveling for knowledge, right? I got over for a year under Bill Blankenship to learn what is a 6-time state champion head coach, a D1 college head coach. The guy's been all over the place, done a lot of great things. How does he run a program? I stay, in with you, and I stay in with Joe and learning how you guys run programs. I went to Stillwell. I've gone to Bristow. I've done football a different way than most coaches. So, and my way is probably not the most successful. I feel like I have learned a crap ton of football and I have no place to use it. So don't do things my way. Do one of the things that Kenny said. Either go take a job and get good at it, or stay where you are and get good and then take a job, because bouncing around is not the way to do it. Although I do feel like I'm the most prepared in football I've ever been in my career at any point. And each year I felt that way, right? Like I've learned a ton of stuff and another way to do it. But I do know that comes with kind of a black cloud of, this guy moves a lot. So just be prepared. Whatever way you pick, just be able to justify it, I guess. If you step into an interview, I can always tell them I chased knowledge, right? I had a bad coaching experience. I moved out of that. Now I'm just chasing knowledge. And most people understand. But whatever your situation is, just find a way to be good at where you are. I think you'll be okay. So let's take that next step now, Coach. So talking about, we've talked about being a great head coach and kind of the pieces go to it. So how do you prepare to move up? Maybe it is a coordinator role. Maybe it is a head coaching job. What are kind of the steps we're taking to prepare ourselves for that?
Yeah, I think there's twofold on this question. So I kind of want to speak to Daniel's, what he just mentioned. So when there are ways to get a head coaching job, and then there are ways to be a successful head coach. And I think those are very different questions. So I'm going to answer the first one. To get a head coaching job is all about relationships. Like, it's who do you know and who can speak for you. That's it. Like, that's it. If you just want to be a head coach, be really good at relationships. Try to know as many different people as you can learn and know. And your odds of becoming a head coach are going to go way up. Like, I think that's, and you have to do that. Like, you have to get the job to prove you can do the job. It's kind of one of those chicken or the egg arguments. So I think a big thing on there is you have to understand you've got to make connections. Like you have to make connections that are good connections with not just your own staff, but opposition staff, other schools in the area, other administrators in the area. Like ultimately, they're the ones that are going to decide if you get to be a head coach somewhere. Like that's what it comes down to. Rarely have I sat in a head coach interview for a high school job and thought, my football knowledge is going to get me this job.
Right.
It's not. Like it's really not. It's how well can I interview? How well can I present myself? How well can I be connected with the right people speaking the right things? So I'm not saying the football knowledge doesn't matter. Obviously it does. But to get a job doesn't necessarily require that. It's a lot of making connections with the right people. Now, the next part of the question I'm going to answer here is how to, when you get it, how to be ready. Like, so one, that's how you get a job. Now, how are you ready as you can be? So the first thing is you're never ready. I'm never ready. And this is like my 20th year as a head coach. Still got a lot I'm learning. So it never ends. Like you never, now all of a sudden, boom, I'm ready. Like it just it doesn't happen. It's like, when I was a teenager, I thought, oh, you know what? At some point, I'm going to have it all together. Well, when that happens, let me know, because I'm still learning. The same thing happened as being a head coach. But there are things you can do to make the learning curve a little bit easier. So here's some of those things I would share. Number one, I would look to find out what areas the head coach is doing that you can help in that I put on in quotation marks are not fun. Like what are the areas the head coach does that aren't fun? It's fun to watch film. It's fun to have scheme. It's fun to design plays. It's fun to have fun with the kids. I would consider those fun things. Here's areas I would not consider fun: fundraising, grade checks, working with teachers, working with parents, filling out all the paperwork you got to fill out to make sure these kids are eligible, like laundry. There's a list of different huddle or quick cut being that guy that sets up the sideline. All of those things are not fun. Taking the trash out in the locker room, making sure that we have this organized. None of that stuff's fun. But that's basically 90% of my job as a head coach. Like that's 90% of what I do is that, and 10% is football. So if you want to be ready to be a head coach, start helping in those areas. And you may, one, find like that what Daniel did. Maybe I don't want to be a head coach. Or two, these are the things I'm going to have to do, and they will be all mine when I become a head coach. So I'd start helping in those areas now. Two, I would watch the organizational things that the head coach does. They may not be good. Like you can learn a lot from a guy who does a bad job of don't do that. So what are they doing organizationally? How are we getting word to parents about what's coming up? How are we getting word to players about what's coming up? How are we communicating with coaches about what's coming up? How are we handling sudden changes? How are we organizing our practice? How are we organizing, our game plan? How are we organizing our film breakdown? All that stuff needs to be thought about and intentional. You can learn, I don't want to do this, or I do want to do this. I would be a meticulous note taker. Like if you're a note taker, take notes. But I would make sure you're always kind of putting things down of, oh, hey, you know what? That was a really good practice. Well, what did we do in that practice that made it good? That was a really good breakdown of film. Well, what did we do that made it good? What did coach do that made that good? What made this fundraiser successful and that one not successful? Those are the little things you want to write down. So when you become a head coach, you kind of know where you're going to go. Like when you become a head coach, all of these categories fall underneath you. And the more things you can say, I want to do this, or I don't want to do this, it can help you out. Because I promise you, when you become a head coach, I feel like you make 1,000 decisions a day. So the more decisions that you already know, make it a lot easier. If you're having to make that many decisions and you're not sure where you're going, it can be rough. And that's usually what happens to first-year head coaches. I would work to take leadership roles that are available. A lot of these are low-hanging fruit. Daniel mentioned it, special teams coordinator. Okay. Generally, that's going to be given to a guy who's just willing to be organized. Like, it's not like you're going to run some elite special teams. You hope you grow to that, but most of the time as a head coach, you're just going, what guy is going to make sure 11 dudes are on the field, and then from there we can work. So that's generally a job that's not necessarily given to like the most experienced coach. That might be an opportunity. JV head coach, JV coordinator. Like, those are spots where Monday night, I really don't even want to be there. Like, I'd rather be at home, but we need to play these JV games. So if somebody said, hey, coach, I really would like to call the defense on Monday nights, we're probably going to say, have at it, dude.
Absolutely.
That's a great opportunity for you. Or, hey, coach, you know what, on JV nights, I'd really like to be in the box helping with, go for it. So those are some low-hanging fruit opportunities where you can take a leadership role. Daniel already mentioned maybe social media coordinator, statistic guy, sideline coordinator. There's all these different things that probably can help a program that a lot of people aren't even doing, that you can step into, avoid, and take a little bit of ownership. And then you start to learn, okay, I did this year, maybe I can add this next year. And I can start kind of figuring out, okay, I'm good in these areas, I'm not. Because here's the deal. When you become a head coach, if you're like me, I hire guys in areas I'm not very good. Like, if I'm not great in this area, I'm going to try to go find a guy to hire in that area. But I need to know I'm not good first, so I know who to go hire. And so it's good to work that stuff while you're an assistant. And I think the big thing for us is, I think, Daniel, this might be one of yours here, but basically you're trying to start figuring out who you are. Like, you're trying to figure out who I am, where I'm strong, where I'm not strong, which will allow you, when you get somewhere, to hire a staff. But I do want to finish going back to where we started. It's always about relationships. Relationships will get you the job, and relationships will allow you to hire assistant coaches. So to Daniel's point, if you're moving a lot, that's an opportunity in my mind, because you're able to form relationships with lots of people. But you got to be intentional to make sure those are deep, good relationships.
Right.
If you're not moving, so the opposite, if I'm not moving, I've been in one spot for 15 years as an assistant, what are you doing to expand your sphere of influence? Like, if you want to become a head coach, I've got to be intentional. I've been here for 10 years. Do I know the conference coaches? Do I know the conference administrators? Do I know the local administrators? If I'm in Daniel's shoes, we're okay. I've been bouncing around. Have I made those good, strong relationships when a job comes open? I can get a job. And the second part is, once you get a job, you have to hire a staff. So do you have relationships there where I can go pull a good staff? Because just saying we have a job opening and picking the best applicant, in my opinion, that's not the way to do it.
Right.
Like, I'm going to go target guys that we want in certain spots. It's not to say we won't hire a guy who applies that I didn't know, but more than likely, we're going to go after the best of the best. That's how I want to hire.
I love it. I kind of talked on here about, to start building out your program. What is your football program going to be built around? It's a great chance to kind of work that out, because you're generally following someone else's lead, right? Like Chris Cole had SWORD last year, which was selflessness and something in ownership and personal courage. Maybe, I don't know. Sorry, coach, I don't know what SWORD means anymore. But over Bill Blankenship does, work wins. And that's just something he believes in. And it kind of builds right off of that, right? Everything in his program is all about work to win the games. My focus in life, where I think we've had the most influence, especially, I've had soldiers. I've had years to practice this with soldiers, right? And kind of building that culture around a platoon is just extreme ownership. And when people are constantly taking ownership for things and trying to improve the program's going to go somewhere. Kenny, you find a way. Like, go out and don't make excuses. Find a way, right? Those are all great things. And sometimes it's just little quotes. Sometimes it's true pillars or values that we are going to base an entire program off of. But this is a great time to kind of sketch those down, figure out who you are, what guy, you said it really well. What guys do you need to hire? Are they going to fit that same mold? Am I bringing in other guys that have extreme ownership, or am I bringing in guys that bring in another strength? So that's a great deal. I won't touch too much on this. You already mentioned you can learn what to do and what not to do, right? You should always be learning. You might take a job and realize, man, this is not a good place to be. But you better be writing down why it's not a good place to be. Make sure you're never repeating that. And if it's a great place, you need to be writing down why that is a great place. There's some people that have jobs so good they don't ever want to leave. They never want to be a head coach because why? I'm treated like a king around here. Life is easy. I'm coaching ball and I love it. Do that. That's okay too. And then the other thing is just document your value. So as an assistant coach, someday you'll want to be a coordinator or a head coach. You better have proof of what you've done, right? I started quarterback clubs. I started schools for each position group that we did at lunchtime. My first year, I started a study hall because we had a bunch of kids failing. Everywhere I've gone, I've tried to start something and continue the things I used before. Once again, being a problem solver, you have to be able to document that. Having how much you increase scoring by, or how much we increased our turnovers caused on defense, whatever. Those are pretty good if you're going out to get the next coordinator job. Look, I can increase your offense by 47%. That's awesome. I want you here as a coordinator. As a head coach, they do not care. I do not feel like that's ever going to matter. It's not going to swing anybody in your resume if you're trying to go be a head coach. So depending on where you're at, your successes, you need to be documenting your difference. You better just write it all down and be able to translate it to whatever job you're trying to get. Where did you add improvement to the program or value? All right, coaches, hit this last part here. How to handle conflict with the head coach or other assistants. And I'm so glad you put this in there. I unfortunately have had a couple stops where I did have a lot of conflict. Most of the time, nothing. Sometimes, yes. And so I'm super excited for you to, kind of walk through your part here.
Yeah, well, I think anywhere you go, there's going to be a difference of opinion. Like, it's easy, even me, and I'm a head coach, but when I'm looking at our superintendent or our principal, and he's making decisions, I don't agree with all of them. Like, that's just that's natural. That doesn't mean they're bad at their job, but like, I don't always agree. So I think it's normal as an assistant coach to not agree with everything. Like, that's normal. I don't think, oh man, I'm serving a bad head coach. No, you're not. Like, that's normal, you know. And I do think there's a couple of caveats you need to know. Like, I think that you need to understand that we don't always know what they know. Like, we don't always know all the background, and we definitely don't feel all the pressure, and so you got to put yourself in the mindset of it. And I kind of wrote it down this way: show a little grace, like show a little bit of grace, because especially if you're in a program that's not winning a ton, that guy is under tremendous pressure. Like, that guy's under tremendous pressure because there's a microscope on every decision that he makes. So he's going to make some bad ones, and he needs a little bit of grace from the assistants on that. Realize that he, depending on where you are, could be fired for some of the decisions that he makes. And there are probably things he knows that you're not privy to. It could be a conversation with a parent that you know nothing about. It could be a conversation with an admin that you know nothing about. It could be, it could be a conversation where he's heard that if I don't do this, there's going to be this consequence. And he just doesn't want to share that with you for whatever reason. So just kind of know, as an assistant, you don't always have the whole picture of what's being made. That being said, head coaches make bad decisions at times. Like, sometimes you do know all of it, and you do know that he was wrong. Like, that's part of it. That's where the show a little bit of grace part kind of comes in, because sometimes we just don't make great decisions. I would say this: if something is serious, you should voice your opinion. Like, I think there's something that should be said for voicing your opinion. How you do it does matter, and how often you do it matters a lot. Like, if you're voicing your opinion on the color of the jersey we're wearing, I'm probably tuning you out for other stuff, because let's be honest, that doesn't matter. Like, if everything to you is a fight. We talked to my kids about this. I talk to anybody about this. If you make every molehill a mountain, like if you argue over the small things, you're probably going to be white noise on the big things. Like, if you're the guy that's always, we should do this, I think we want to run power, we should run it in the B gap to the A gap. I'm not saying that's not important, but I'm saying there are things that who that guy is on your staff.
For sure.
If you don't know who that guy is on your staff, you're that guy on your staff.
You
Like
might be that guy.
And you know what I'm talking about. Like there's always that guy that everything's, the end of the world, and that everything has to be discussed and everything has to be argued over and gets mad about things that really don't matter. Don't be that guy. Like, don't be that guy, because all that does is give the coach headaches. If you are a guy that will be patient and you'll voice your opinion, and I think what would think be the correct way, which in my opinion would be if it's in private. Like if it's something that needs to be addressed, you address it in private. You're more likely, not always, but you're more likely to at least be heard.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're going to go with what you say, but at least you'll be heard. If you come at me in a coach's meeting or in front of a bunch of people, I try to be patient, but you probably ain't getting what you want right there. I know that's just kind of how it is. I mean, that's where all have a little bit of ego, a little kind of machismo, whatever you want to say it. So you kind of bring that on yourself, they're going to bark back, and that's not the way you want things to go. Nobody wants things to go that way. So I would try to make sure, hey, I'm not arguing over everything, but these are some things I think do need to be addressed, and let's address these in private. And then I think you criticize, or not really criticize, but maybe question or maybe offer solutions like Daniel mentioned. I think that's another really good suggestion, is don't just tell me, hey, this is bad and you're doing this wrong, you're doing whatever. Come at me with, hey, coach, here's some potential things we might be able to do. Like there's some potential things that might be able to alleviate this problem. Hey, coach, we're having problems in our locker room with our kids being loud, playing inappropriate music, whatever that might be. And you know what, coach, I tell you what, I think I'd be willing to sit there and kind of lay down some rules with them and go through whatever, or whatever the solutions might be. And again, there's 1,000 things that could fall underneath that. Hey, coach, I noticed we didn't have a practice schedule today. I don't mind doing one for you if you want me to. Here's a couple different options I could do for you.
Yeah.
Or hey, coach, we didn't have we got on the bus and we've left this kid at the field house. Do you want me to go ahead and print out a roster for you? So we've got that for the next road game. There's all these different things that are obvious mistakes by the head coach, but hopefully the way I just said it in private might get heard. But saying things like, I guess we forgot someone there, I wonder why that happened, you're not going to get what you want with that. So just kind of know that's kind of how it works. I think how you address things, when you address things, how often you address things, potentially could alleviate some conflict. Understand, a lot of us have very strong opinions. That's why we're in this world. They don't always have to be shared. And that's really hard for me to hear, because I always think I'm right. I can ask my wife, ask my kids. I think I'm right all the time. Like, that's just my opinion. So when you do something that I don't agree with, it's really hard for me to sit there and go, and just breathe a little bit and just let it go. And so you got to ask yourself, does this really matter? Is this worth what's going to come? Whatever. And I might even be right. Let it go. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day that posted something that said, if you told me 3 + 2 = 4, I'm probably just going to ignore it and move on. Like, obviously that's wrong, but is that really worth my time to get into an argument? So just kind of check yourself in that world. And the big thing on that is also praise in public. Like, praise that coach in public. Anyone asks, hey man, we got a great program, coach does whatever. Always be positive in public. And it's hard to do that because you think you have somebody you can confide in. And if you're not married to them, don't, because that can quickly get back to the coach. And you might not have even said it ugly, but it went from what you told so-and-so, the booster president, and it turned into this and turned into that. Sometimes the head coach won't even call you in, but he knows. And he might not even know the right information. So just make sure what's being said in public about the program is always positive. And it's okay to have some people you can confide in, but you better make sure they're the right people. Because the minute stuff circles back to that head coach, he's not going to trust you with anything. Like if it comes back to me that Daniel was talking to so-and-so who's on our board, or so-and-so who's on our booster club, or so-and-so who's our athletic director, and I think, even if I think that conversation wasn't good about me, guess who I'm not giving more responsibilities to? Guess who I'm not confiding in? Guess who I'm not promoting? And it might even happen without a conversation.
Right.
So you got to be really careful how you speak in public. Now, all that being said, I do think as an assistant coach, it is your responsibility to handle serious issues that could be blind spots of the head coach. Like I want my guys to do that. Most head coaches want you to do that. It's how you do it. It's when you do it. It's why you're doing it. That's going to make all the difference in the world. And I'll say this, Daniel, you've worked for a Hall of Fame coach. He'd probably be the first one, if we got him up here, to admit he's made a bunch of mistakes. I've made a bunch of mistakes. A lot of head coaches made a bunch of mistakes. So just understand, like, you might be right. Like, if Daniel and I have some conflict, he might be 100% right. But ultimately, I'm the one that's going to get fired.
That's
and
right.
so sometimes you just have to say, I voiced my opinion. We had a conversation. Coach said no, and I'm going to do what coach says to do.
I think it's really good to point out here from the assistant side, because coach, being a head coach, you've proved to me you're a great man. I have no doubt that it's an amazing situation to be coaching for you. We all know that not all of them are. So that's probably something you want to ask early on, maybe even in your interviews. Hey, man, we have a disagreement. How do you expect that to be handled? And maybe they even turn it to a joke and be like, hey, I'm always right. Well, yeah, gotcha. Now it's something I really believe in. How am I supposed to bring that to you? Might just be a question you have to ask, because then at least you can, when you do bring it up, you say, Coach, I asked you then, this is how you said you wanted this handled. I'm bringing it to you in the way that you said to do it. Whatever that feel like. Most people, I feel like most of us, you said we are alpha types, right? But we still want that respect in public, and let's have that conversation in private. If you feel like you're not in a situation you can talk to your coach, I guess as the king of moving around, I'll tell you it might be time to find your next stop. Maybe you are a guy that's been somewhere 10 years, right? It's probably time anyway. You probably need to hear a new voice. But just be aware of who you're working for so that these things don't go south on you, because that would be super unfortunate. I got a little special close here. I just want you to ask yourself, if you're still listening, and hopefully you are. I think it's about 120 people live. So thank you all for being here. That's really cool for us. We can look up, see triple digits are live listening. And we still get all the downloads later. It's wonderful. 3 questions I want you to ask yourself, and just and do it. They're almost rhetorical, but if the head coach got sick tomorrow, can you run the program? Do you know it front to back, side to side? Can you do it all? In the military, we're big on learning, two positions above you and teaching your position to 2 coaches below, or 2 echelons or 2 ranks below you. Hopefully that's going on within your system, within your program. But ask yourself, can you run it if the head coach ain't there tomorrow? Can you step up and do it? Second question is, what do you bring to the table that nobody else does? So can you write that down? Or do you not have anything yet? Maybe you got to go back and listen to the part we talked about owning something. But what do you bring that nobody else brings to the table? If you're a first-year guy, that's probably not much. You know what I mean? Unless you come with a lot of experience, like Coach Simpson likes to hire guys that have a ton of experience outside of football. Maybe you do bring something. Maybe it is problem solving. Maybe it is relationships or management, time management, event management, whatever. What do you bring? And the last one is, do you make the other coaches' jobs easier or harder? You said it a moment ago, Coach. If you're the guy that has an opinion about everything, if everything's a battle, you're probably answering this as that you make the job harder for everyone. I had to have a conversation with a soldier this week. Obviously just got back off our annual training, and I had to have the conversation. It's a person that can have a lot of influence. It's a person that's going to be really great someday. But the person right now is everything is an argument. Everything is, let me read the regs out for you. Everything that person comes in contact with needs to have the rules broken out so I can show you why I'm right and you're wrong. At the end of the day, I don't care. Small potatoes do not matter. Let that just be water under the bridge, whatever crazy thing you want to say. Just move on with life and get to the things that actually matter. And then in your program, it's probably the kids, it's probably relationships, and how we're going to keep being successful. All right, Coach, throw us into what not to do as a coach here.
Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned a little bit. I think the big thing is this is to wish away where you are right now. Like I think that's and that's just a life general thing, but don't spend your life living 5 years in the future. Because before you know it, you're an old person and you're constantly looking for the next thing. That's hard to do. Like a lot of times as coaches, you kind of know I want to go here, and then I want to go here, and then I want to go. You kind of have it planned out for what you want. There's nothing wrong with that. Zero wrong with that. But a lot of times, man, you miss out on some really good opportunities, like some really good opportunities that you're in right now because you're wishing for what's coming at the next stop. Like, can't wait till I'm a coordinator and I can do whatever. Can't wait till I'm a head coach and I can do whatever. Can't wait till I'm a head coach at a bigger school and I can do. Can't wait till I'm a head coach at college. Whatever that is, all of us kind of have that next. And if you're not careful, you're going to be an old man like me, and you're going to be like, man, and looking back, going, how many opportunities did I miss out on? Like, how many things did I miss out on because I kept looking for what was coming? Coach, it looks like we had a question there.
Yeah, we do.
Read that. What you got?
Question live. It seems like basically it's just asking, how much feedback do you accept or how much do you want from assistants? Maybe not scheme-wise, but when you're talking about your program improvement. Is that something you actually want? How much is too much? And I think we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but by all means, it's cool to be able to answer a question live.
Sure. Yeah, no worries. Again, a lot of that depends on your head coach. A lot of that depends on your situation because I've been there before where I was a 27-year-old and I had, I was like one of the youngest coaches on staff and I was a head coach. So to me, I needed the feedback, but I didn't really want the feedback because I kind of thought I knew everything, but I needed it more. Now the ironic problem is I'm 20 years into doing this, and now I mean you come in our meetings, you're gonna be like, "Ooh, you might get offended," like.
Right.
But I've been here 13, 14 years coaching with some of these guys for 12, 13, 14 years. I mean, we're pretty honest, and most of the time no one gets their feelings hurt because we've been around each other forever. But if you're in a new situation, I just would be careful not to give too much. Just like I said, don't argue too much. Also, don't want to give too much. Like if Daniel's coming onto our staff and he's the new guy, we want to hear from Daniel. But if he's got a comment about every single thing in our program, that's going to get old pretty quickly. Like kind of earn your way up in that. And that's just through time. We want to hear you, but maybe don't do too much or do it in private or do it wherever it is. I want enthusiastic young coaches. We need one. I got a brand new one on my staff. So excited about him right out the gate. I mean, he just, like a baby coach, they're just ready to go and everything's great. We want that guy to talk. Like we want his opinion. We want him to contribute, but probably that guy just needs to listen more than he talks at this point. And it doesn't mean we don't want to hear from him, but when you're first in a place, you just don't want to be that guy that always has an answer for everything or always has an argument for everything. Like nobody wants to be that guy. Prove it with the jobs we're giving you, then speak more. And again, I'd kind of say God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. But I'd also say, God gave you 2 arms and 2 hands and 1 mouth. Show me you can work, and I'll listen to you. Like show me you're willing to put the time in, and I'll listen to you. If I'm looking around for guys I need to help and you've already left the field house, I'm probably not going to listen very much.
Yeah. There you go. I'll tell you one, just to add on here, Coach, just one piece we do in the military is, there's kind of like, there's a window of just observation. And it kind of gets into this. You don't want to be the guy that shows up and starts trying to make changes. Even if you're the head coach, the new head coach, you may just take some time and experience what that program looks like. Are things broken? Do you need to waste your time? I heard if it ain't broke, don't break it. I heard that the other day and I was like, man, how much better is that? And if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But don't waste your resources and your time and your energy on things that don't need to be fixed. Sit back, wait, observe. So if you're a new assistant coach somewhere, big piece right there. Get in, get a feel for what actually is going on, and then figure out what matters, and then problem solve. Sweet, Coach. Let's go ahead and get closing out here. New books. I know you've put out a few things, and it's got out of my memory because you've been gone so long, and I've been gone so long. So talk about
we had we have the 3-4 Swarm 2 is out, and so all these, by the way, are available over at fbcoachsimpson.com. You can go over there. You can find any of these books. You can get them on Amazon if you want to. But 3-4 Swarm has come out recently. We did the Play Caller's Guide. That was a new one we put out this year. We are working to get Team Themes Volume 5. That should be coming out. Hopefully, I'm hoping to get it out before the season because I know a lot of guys will get that and they'll use it with their team. So we're trying to get it done before the season. But Team Themes Volumes 1 through 4 are out if you want to use those. And I'm also working on one. It will not be done this year, but I'm really close. I'll have it next year. It's called Our Journey from 0-10 to 10-0. And it's got 10 chapters, 10 lessons we kind of learned as we went. I think that's going to be a really, really good book. I got to spend time this past 2 weeks at some installs with some teams that were 0-10 last year and talk with them a lot about common experiences when you're 0-10 and then some of the ways we turned it around. And that kind of inspired a lot of this. And so that book will be coming out next year. So hopefully I don't go 0-10 because it could be from 0-10 to 10-0 to 0-10.
Right.
Watch out. But a lot of it's just sharing the lessons of here's where we were. Here's what we did to go from good or not good at all to pretty good. Here's where we went from pretty good to, to get to 10-0. I don't care who you're playing. You gotta be pretty good at what you're doing. So we're going to put that book out next year. So anyway, 3-4 Volume 2, Play Caller's Guide are out now, and then be looking for those other books.
Awesome. One last time, I'm going to mention our sponsors here. A Sports, always going to be our primary guys. Mark is just doing great things and really loves us here at the podcast. Heck, he drags me around the country now just come podcast when they're at clinics and stuff. Here in a couple of weeks, we'll be up at Quapaw, Oklahoma. I'll be doing a thing there, and I don't even remember what it's called because I am still in Army mindset. I will have all this better next time we go live. I promise. Team Builder practice. Love teaming up with Team Builder this year. These are the guys that have been doing strength and conditioning for years. Now they're jumping into the practice world. So helping you schedule practice, build drills, drill books. That's my favorite part of the drill books. It's just digital drill book. There's nothing better than that. But all this organization and parents can get on and have a viewing account. They come in and see what practice is going to look like. No more fielding 1,000. Hey, is when this practice going to be over questions? Log in and see what we're doing. And it's just adds that transparency. Winning Edge Performance Analytics, my favorite part of what he's doing over there. One is the in-game analytics. At halftime, I know exactly what's beating us. I know where their big plays are coming from, whether it's formation or play or personnel groupings, whatever. But being able to export all that data, all the tags, and put it right on Huddle, and now my film is tagged the next day. So for us with an offense that has a crap ton of tags, Coach, that's going to be big for us because I don't want to have some guy writing it down and I got to reread his stuff and type it all over. No, we can just put it in digitally. There's no more misread words. There's no more missing plays. And it's 20% off your first year if you use 20 off Coaching 101 at winningedgeperformanceanalytics.com. Jump over, sign up for that today. Let's get out of here. Social media. I am at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. I was going to share a ton of Red Sox stuff here recently, but they traded, one of our dudes yesterday. I'm still not exactly happy about it. Every time I buy a Red Sox jersey, they trade the player off. Every single time. I bought a Rafael Devers jersey this year in Boston when I was up there with you, Coach, and they freaking traded him off yesterday for like peanuts. So hard to be a Red Sox fan. Anyway, Chamberlain Football Consulting at gmail.com is my email. You can jump over on the Patreon and support me there. Patreon.com/Chamberlain Football Consulting, where I do all levels of consulting, from being an additional assistant coach that helps take things off your plate to just making your media guides to helping you make graphics, whatever you need. Jump over there and we'll make if there's not already a level for you, I'll make one for you. Coach, where are you at?
All things FB Coach Simpson. So at FB Coach Simpson on Twitter. FBCoachSimpson at gmail.com and then FBCoachSimpson.com for all my stuff.
Awesome. Just read a text from my wife a moment ago. Said, crack a window in there. It's cooled off outside. It's about 100 in the stinking room. Podcast is at Coaching 101 Pod on Twitter /X. We want to thank you for being a listener to the Coaching 101 podcast. We'll hope you join us next week as we continue to make the complex more simple. Please consider subscribing to the show so you'll always know when the new episodes are out. We're looking for reviews, shares, comments, likes. If you see us up on a social media, hit the like button, hit the share button. That's how we're going to spread the word to other coaches. Guys that come on with comments like you appreciate what we do to the coaching community, we love doing that too. You can help us do that by just sharing things over. We'll leave you with this. It's hard to beat someone who never gives up. No matter the situation, find a way.